Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the number one source for news, analysis, and discussion on the Detroit Red Wings, the NHL, and all things hockey. Here are your hosts, Ryan Hanna, Brad Crisco, and Evan Lopsinger.
Standing up in the gondola as those final seconds were ticking down, I think the best description of how this feels to watch the Red Wings lose that game was multiple people said something to the effect of, man, I don't want sad bar. What they mean by I don't want sad bar is after Winged Wheel podcast nights, we always go to Harry's Detroit right across from the arena. And after a win, it is such a fun time. Everyone's there. It's a packed house. The vibes are good. Everyone's buzzing. And after a loss, like a devastating loss like that, it's just everyone's still going to go. Like we all want to hang out, see each other and you know, talk about the game and not let the night end. But the vibes are terrible. And, you know, in the fall was the devastating collapse against Buffalo. And this one was the third period collapse against Boston. And it's like, yeah, it's sad bar. We're still going to go to Harry's, but it's not a...
Drink our sorrows away after that one.
Pretty like whatever you had to do, because it wasn't the same as the Buffalo game. But I'll tell you, it's what we've been saying on the show and what we said in person to so many people, like moral victories just don't count for anything anymore, which is a shame. But they've never accounted for points in the standings. And when those didn't matter, you could still draw the silver linings. But yeah, after that one, I don't blame people for not being happy about sad bar. That was yet another game that the Red Wings let slip away, which is a shame because it was another great night, another, you know, packed house, sold out event. This is going to be a post Winged Wheel podcast night episode, which makes it a little bit of a different tune. So we're actually going to jump right into it because you're going to hear the interview from Winged Wheel podcast night featuring Ken Daniels and KIRK Maltby. And so this is going to be probably a longer episode. So without further ado, welcome to the Winged Wheel podcast. Here remotely this episode, not in studio, to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings hockey, the world of the NHL, and lots more. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast, we are going to be talking about the two Red Wings games that have happened, the heroics against Montreal, and then the disappointment against Boston. We're going to be talking about what's upcoming and just where the Red Wings sit on a razor's edge as they approach the last dozen games of the season. Then we're going to cut to our live show that happened before the Bruins game featuring Ken Daniels and KIRK Maltby at Little Caesars Arena, where we talked about everything about the Red Wings, the NHL, you know, the outlook of this team and lots more. And then when we're back, we're going to get into overtime. There's going to be news that we don't cover this episode, whether it's league-wide news, you know, want to talk about Kucherov or the suspension of AJ Greer or the comments from Gary Bettman or, you know, Red Wings news more on Max Plant or Trey Augustine or anything like that. That will happen in future episodes as we catch up. But just as a post-Winged Wheel podcast night, in the interest of getting this show out to you, it's going to be a little bit of a different feel for the show. Before we jump into it, patreon.com/Winged Wheel podcast if you want to support the show and allow us to make Winged Wheel podcast nights at the LCA happen. You know, those are things that we fund completely ourselves. That's the only way that we can do those games is because of the generous support of our patrons, and our patrons get access to benefits like our bonus overtime episodes, which record right after these main ones. We let loose, we have fun. It's a really good time. You get thoughts with Evan, you get bloopers and outtakes. You also get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord, and you're automatically entered into all of our giveaways. We give away 2 tickets to every Detroit Red Wings home game going directly to our Patreon supporters. Also, some other giveaways that we do. We can't sell the limited edition co-branded Detroit Red Wings and Winged Wheel podcast merch from events. It's, you know, NHL licensed merchandise. We can't sell it, but we always buy up a bunch of extras to give away for future giveaways directly to our patrons. So I'm wearing one right now. If you want to watch on YouTube and you see this, it's got the Centennial logo on the front, the Winged Wheel podcast logo on the side. They turned out unreal. I can't believe how good these turned out.
They look so good in person.
Yeah. So again, patreon.com/Winged Wheel podcast. And if you got a ticket to the event and you weren't there to pick up your hat in person, shoot us an email with your name, your ticket information, etc., and you're still entitled to your hat. So not all is lost there. Okay, let's start with the good stuff. Let's start with the, I don't want to say unexpected win against Montreal, but it was, at some points in the game, it felt like an unexpected win against Montreal. The Red Wings prevail over the Montreal Canadiens 3-1 in regulation. at Little Caesars Arena. Alex DeBrincat blows the roof off the place, and that was as close to a playoff game as I think the Red Wings have had all year. Walk us through the kind of flow of that game and how it played out and what stood out to you.
I appreciated the Red Wings ramp up that game, is what I'll call it. I thought for the circumstances going into the game and everything that was on the line, I'm not going to say they played bad in the first half. They were okay. But given the circumstances of that game, I feel like okay was a long way from acceptable. But then Montreal started running around and acting like a bunch of rats, and the Red Wings basically tried to one-up them in that category for the rest of the game, which I genuinely appreciated. That's not a criticism. There were some dirty plays. What were we calling it? Simon Edvinsson when he unked Cole Caufield out of the way at one point, and just chippy, feisty game where the intensity just kept going up and up and up and up and up as the game went along. And in the third period, the play finally caught up to the nature of the game. So overall, it was good. Like I said, I was a little disappointed with how flat they were to start a game like that, but I really do appreciate the level that they got to by the end of the game.
Yeah, I think it was such a huge boost for Detroit that Andrew Copp came back for that game. We talked last episode with him practicing and potentially being back as early as Thursday, and he was. And it's no secret. That's a guy who realizes his importance to the team and, found a way to get himself on the ice and playing when he definitely was like a week or so ahead of schedule. Certainly you can assume that he wasn't 100%. So him being back in the lineup and making that impact was huge for the team. And yeah, it was a playoff style game. It's the same Red Wings offense we've been seeing since the injuries start to pile up, with Dylan Larkin mainly being out and Lucas Raymond not being the Lucas Raymond that he normally is when he's at 100% in terms of performance and health. So they didn't look like they were ever going to score again at points this game. But the reason that didn't scare me too much is because I felt that way a few times this year. And what I thought was, a few times this year, they've been able to find the moments and they've been able to just disregard the way the game played out up until then. And they, as long as they don't break, all they did was bend. They only let in one goal up until that point. They just found a way to get through. Patrick Kane floater from the point gets through, bounces off the goaltender and off of JT Compher's rear end like he's just an abdicator in the Pavel Datsyuk era. And the Red Wings tie the game. And that was massive. By that point in the game, the refs had put away the whistles. Third period, that was a pretty early goal in the third period. And the refs they did not want to decide the outcome of that game. A little frustrating, but it was also you're right, Brad. That was playoff style hockey. That's what you're going to have to get used to if you want to make the postseason. And against an opponent who the Red Wings needed to make sure that they didn't have a 4-point swing against them. And they just kind of bided their time. They stopped even bending. They only let in the one goal. Gibson was outstanding. And then it was just that one moment. The puck's going back. Matheson's back. He kind of has one touch on the puck, stumbles, falls backwards, takes a spill and turns it over to DeBrincat, who makes absolutely no mistake. Automatic goal right there. The Red Wings take the late lead and the roof blew off of the LCA. Just an electric atmosphere. Andrew Copp makes it 3-1 on a DeBrincat assist as well. And cool to see him get a goal in his first game back, and the Red Wings seal it 3-1. And everything up until then didn't matter. And that's kind of got to be how the Red Wings win big games. And so we talked heading into these series of games of what do the Red Wings need to walk away with against these Atlantic opponents. And we said, don't let them take more than a point up on you net. And the Red Wings actually had the 4-point swing in their favor against the Habs. Wasn't expecting it. Massive. Biggest win, at least of the season. And I'd contend even more than that.
I felt like the Wings finally got some luck in a game, especially one of such importance as the game against Montreal, right? JT Compher uses his hockey butt and the puck just goes in the net. Very unlucky, but he's in the right spot. And then Mike Matheson just coughs up an absolute meatball on a bad bounce right to the best scorer on the Red Wings and Alex DeBrincat, and he makes no mistake. feels like that kind of stuff happens against Detroit all the time. It's nice that Lady Luck was on their side for once. So it was a very tight game. Like no team really wanted to make that critical mistake to really open scoring and let the other team take advantage. I also thought Marco Kasper had a great game. He registered 8 hits. It seemed like he was all over the place running guys over. That's kind of what you need to see, other than, some additional production would be great, but I think Marco Kasper is starting to come around a little bit.
So the Red Wings take that. Alex DeBrincat, I think that was 15 points in his last 10 games, back-to-back 3-point games, has been, not scoring lights out during that time. That was a lot of contributions by way of assists as well, but he has been phenomenal. And you'll hear us in the live show, we talked about how key he has been for the Red Wings and his consistency and everything. So he was the hero in that game, and it's sparse for the Red Wings right now by way of scoring, but he came through in a big way. And yet another, like I mentioned, John Gibson, massive performance as well. So Detroit walks out of that game pretty happy because they not just kept pace with a crazy Eastern playoff race, but they take 2 points off of a team that was one of the more, frustrating thorns in their side. So they're walking into Boston with some swagger, with some good vibes and a knowledge that they can come out and have a big performance. And that Boston game was a little bit more wild, a lot more eventful. And I thought the Red Wings were not, I don't want to say better overall, because I think they were tighter against Montreal. And, I think John Gibson was definitely better. I think the defense had fewer unforced errors, but their offensive output in terms of chances, just raw chances, was way better against Boston. And that game at times felt cursed. Spoiler alert, the Red Wings lose that game in regulation, having a 2-1 lead early in the third period, and they end up losing 4-2. Tough losses come, considering the context. I think Jeremy Swayman was the biggest difference maker, but not the only one. John Gibson, who's been outstanding pretty much all season, he let in 2 soft goals. Edvinsson and Seider both have, knocks against them for mistakes that they made that led to goals, among others. Like, it's a game where if the Red Wings play that game that way every single game, they're going to win more times than not. They're not going to keep running into Jeremy Swayman performances like that. But you zero it down to this performance, and that is a huge letdown that the Red Wings walked into the third period with a lead and walked away with 0 points against the other wild card team in the Eastern Conference race.
Yeah, this is the difference between normal regular season hockey and quote unquote playoff regular season hockey, where everything matters. Because again, the intensity is going to be cranked up to 1,000 for the rest of the season, especially against teams in the race with the Red Wings. So that's no surprise there. But when the games get that tight, details matter. Like, we can sit here and say easily the Red Wings were the better team that game. I can comfortably say the Red Wings were the better team that game. They controlled the flow of play. They controlled the shot chances. They controlled the scoring chances. Gibson lets in 2 stinkers. Edvinsson has a bad read, and I felt Justin Falk had a pretty tough night too. A lot of his mistakes didn't end up in the net. I think the second one he's partially responsible for. But even at that, at the end of it, Edvinsson's poor gap control in the one, Gibson should have stopped. Falk's mistake in the other one, Gibson probably should have stopped. You can't allow goals like that, whether it is the bad gap control or the poor goaltending. I forget which one it was, but I had a good sight line on it from where I was sitting. Seider had walked into one from the high slot, shot through what felt like 17 bodies, and just Swayman snatched it with the glove. Like, I have no idea how he saw that puck. And the second that hit his glove, I was like, yep, this game's cursed.
There was no crowd reaction. By that point, everyone kind of felt that Swayman was going to just stop everything. And here's the thing, like that game started with a post that hit the inside of the post so cleanly that everyone thought it might have actually gotten like the very inside of the corner of the net and came back out. And they showed the replay immediately on the Jumbotron, and everyone was like, ah. And then there was another wicked opportunity for Detroit. Boston had a gnarly post as well. At the end of the first period, JT Compher scored, we thought, with, just 1/10 of a second left, but going frame by frame, was 0.1 on the clock, the official clock. The puck was just outside the line, and was 0.0, it was just inside. So as the NHL can measure it, it was as close to a goal as it could be without actually counting. So that didn't count for Detroit, and the game was feeling pretty cursed.
Should we talk about that? Because I didn't see any backstory behind it, but I distinctly remember a face-off about 30 seconds left, give or take, in the period. And the officials were over at the box, and it looked like McLellan sent them. I think he was lobbying to get time added on, but it never got added on, which 99 out of 100 times is totally irrelevant to the flow of the game. But in this one, actually could have made a massive, massive difference. It must have been the right call by the refs. Otherwise, you'd hear bloody murder about it today, and I haven't heard anything. But thinking back on it now, that just feel that should have been the moment we knew the Red Wings can play the game of their lives. They're still going to lose this one.
Yeah. Someone once told me details matter. So the scoring of the game actually goes, and this was a huge sigh of relief when it came through, but Lucas Raymond scores on a pretty play on a power play, a guy who finished off a play from Copp and Kane. So Raymond, who's not really been a tough shooter for goalies to stop when he does shoot lately, good for him to get a goal come through. And then David Pastrnak pretty soon after, because Perron took an avoidable penalty, and then Mo Seider just wasn't responsible with the puck. He puts it over the glass for a delay of game, a wild delay of game penalty. They're on a 5-on-3 for so long, and it didn't take long for Boston to convert. So Boston ties it pretty soon after that. In the third period, Alex DeBrincat, yet again, seems to be the only guy who actually has that kind of shooting threat. He beats Swayman on a sick shot. It was a sweet snipe. It was, he used a moving screen extremely well. It felt like razor thin margins just to get that puck through how he did, but it was beautiful, beautiful shot. And then immediately afterwards is when Elias Lindholm scores. That's the puck that should have gotten out of the zone. Multiple mistakes by the Red Wings there, and then a soft goal by Gibson. So they tie it soon after as well. And then Nikita Zadorov walks in, 9:42 in the third. That's where Edvinsson was just super lax, never kind of stepped up and took away time or space from Zadorov. Let him walk all the way in cleanly. If Edvinsson wasn't there, it wouldn't have been different feeling for Zadorov at all. Gibson also got beaten clean. So, mistakes all around. McLellan was not happy about that from Edvinsson for good reason. They go up 3-2. And then after that, the Red Wings have some huge opportunities, and Swayman is just completely lights out. Even after Boston makes it 4-2 with the empty net, Detroit obviously pulls the goalie again, and DeBrincat had this opportunity where Jeremy Swayman just, I have no idea. I didn't think that they were scoring 2 in 45 seconds, but I thought with 45 seconds left, Detroit would bring it back within 1, and then Swayman just glove out of nowhere. Very reminiscent of a different American goalie who ruined a lot of Canadiens' evenings recently. But yeah, it was one of those games where the Red Wings let it slip away, and there is no moral win. There is, I think two things can be true. That was a pretty decent offensive effort in terms of what they did overall by the numbers, but also one where, like you said, Brad, at the top of this discussion about the Boston game, they let details slip, and the way Boston broke through, it didn't need to happen. It's not like Boston overwhelmed them with talent or anything. And something else I want to add is, yes, the Red Wings got the output with the shots and things. This is a team who's missing one of their best offensive players in Dylan Larkin. Too often, they are vacating the other team's net front when they are below their red line looking for a pass, or in a high opportunity passing area, or even when they're just looking for lanes to shoot. The puck carrier is moving out of those lanes, and nobody is creating traffic in front to make it hard for Jeremy Swayman. I thought Swayman was great, but I also thought they let him get in his groove. I think they made it too easy for him to settle in that game. The Red Wings needed to make more disruption, more chaos, more chances. How do you watch Patrick Kane score that floater yet again, that bounce off Comfort, and then not run that same game plan when almost nothing else is getting through if it's not a pretty play on the power play or your only good scorer right now in Alex DeBrincat? You need to kind of create that disruption, and it was disappointing to see the Red Wings try to keep beating Swayman clean. They made it too easy for him.
It's been a consistent problem for this team for a while. First of all, I again, before I dump on them, I think you're right. their offensive generation was better than it normally is. But time and time again this year, this team really struggles to get anything happening in the middle of the ice, whether that's off a rush, net front, traffic, any of it. Like they are a very, very perimeter heavy team. If you go by the Carolina model, that could work, but that requires crashing the net, which the Red Wings don't do. There was a few times, and you could almost see the frustration on, I think it was Seider actually. He got a couple passes at the point, which would have been good looks, but he knows he's not scoring from there, and he had to double clutch because nobody's there. Just he's like, I'm not throwing this puck away. The number of times the Red Wings just dump the puck along the boards from the blue line down low and start a cycle because there's no other option was, I understand in the circumstance it's the right play, but you got to change the circumstances, so that's not the play every friggin' time. It was a little tedious. It's like, I get it. DeBrincat's a natural scorer. Patrick Kane is Patrick Kane. Those guys are going to generate offense in their sleep. Not to belittle the other guys because, again, they played well, but you're not going to generate offense like those two guys. It's not in your toolkit. Not going to happen. Figure something else out. Compher's been okay with it. JVR's done it a lot this year. That feels like that's it. Just remember that scene in Shoresy where they were losing like 5-0 to the Sioux in the one game and they knew they were folding. So Shoresy just takes a full-on charge at the goalie from the blue line. I'd take that at this point.
Yeah, I think
just someone eat the suspension. Just
expected goals. Prashant put this in the chat. Expected goals in the third period, and this includes a penalty shot which Gibson saved, which I should give him credit for because we said he let in 2 soft goals. He also, kept them in it after that, so a little bit of redemption. Includes a penalty shot and doesn't include the empty net goal. Expected goals was 2.28 for Detroit and 0.32 for Boston. One, yeah, that's disappointing that the goalie in your defense helped let in 3 goals on 0.32 expected goals. Start running a goalie. If you can't break through and you can't figure it out, like maybe not literally, like don't go out and Lucic Miller the guy, but you got to make literally. His life. You got to make his life hell. Like you have to make it hell. They had 44 shots on goal, and look, if they do that more games than not, they're going to win more games for the rest of the year. But you're running out of games. You're running out of time to do trends. You need to win in moments. The same way you won against Montreal, you need to be able to buckle down and win when you had the lead in the third. So, yeah, that's where the Red Wings are left at now. It's a disappointing loss there, and upcoming is yet again, for what feels like the third consecutive game, the most important game of their year. They have Ottawa at home on Tuesday night at 7 p.m., and Ottawa is a chasing team as of right now. Things are going to change between now and then, but after that game, Detroit did hold on to a playoff spot on razor-thin margins. Now, the Islanders and the Blue Jackets have not wrapped up their game yet. The Islanders are currently up 1-0 in the second period at the time of this recording, so that will change where things stand. But right now, Detroit is at the very least on the edge of the playoff race. They could be on the periphery looking in, but they are in the mix with all of those teams around them. A massive 2 points given up to Boston there, but with the 2 big Atlantic games so far, they've come out 500, 1 regulation win, 1 regulation loss. What's the scope and the impact of this Ottawa game on Tuesday?
How many fingers or hands are on the panic button after last night? Actually, I should say after the Montreal game and after the Boston game, because you can't just look at the one game in a vacuum.
The heel of my palm is still on it.
Still on.
But it was lightened, I would say, after the Montreal win.
Okay.
And then it went back 80% of the way as compared to what it was before the Montreal game after they lost to Boston. So I'm still in the same spot because, again, the moral victories don't count for anything and the points are what the points are. Someone actually ran a bet. I think it was an 8-leg parlay, and I want to know how much they bet and how much they won, and send some over our way if it was a good amount, because good grief, everything else went against the Red Wings except for like one result. And even then you could argue that it wasn't good.
Hold on. I know the one you're talking about. I'll find it because I remember in his screenshot, it sent the odds. So 8-leg parlay plus 23,000. And it hit for everything to go against the Red Wings.
Yeah, everything. So what's the impact of this Ottawa game? As big as it was for Montreal and as big as it was for Boston, you could argue even bigger. I know, Evan, you said last episode that this is the biggest of those 3 games in your mind based on, keeping a chasing team out. And you're getting to the point of, yeah, you might technically be able to lose a game in regulation to an Atlantic foe or an Eastern Conference foe, but that's not even going to be true for very much longer. You can't keep dropping these. Maybe you can walk away with an overtime or a shootout loss, but Detroit has to find a way to dig in. And I mean, you show that you can have a great performance against Boston. So you have to find a way to dig in and repeat that, but pay more attention to the details in my mind.
Yeah, it's just those minor moments, right? Like, that's what the Red Wings need to clean up, and there's not enough time to, totally iron that away. Like, they're going to play Ottawa. Well, you look at what Ottawa hasn't done in the last 10 games. They're 7-2-1. Awesome. And then they've got to play Buffalo again. Sweet. They're 9-1 in the last 10, of course. I can't even believe they've lost. And then they play Philly, and everyone's like, oh, Philly's out of the picture. Well, Philly's 7-2-1 in the last 10 as well. So they're hitting all the teams who are in stride right now, and there's no relief. So this is it right here. The past 2 games plus the remainder of the schedule, I think, is do or die.
If current scores hold, the Red Wings are 25 minutes away from falling out of the playoffs because the Islanders are currently up on the Blue Jackets. And if they lose to Ottawa, Ottawa's 1 point behind with a game in hand. So, again, not to be a super doomer here, but if current scores hold and Detroit loses in regulation to Ottawa, they could be 10th in the conference. So, again, not out of it, but boy, does that hill seem a lot bigger to climb at that point.
You don't want to put your season in other teams' hands. You don't. We're watching these games every night right now, and we're seeing the big red X's go beside every outcome. Like, you do not want to leave your season up to chance and to other teams. The Red Wings need to take care of business, and okay, they lost to Boston last night. Time to get over that. Time to get ready for Ottawa, because there's no time to look back at the previous games. You've got to be ready for the next ones coming up, and the Red Wings have a chance to almost put Ottawa's season on ice. Like, that has to be motivation. So I'm expecting another good performance out of the Red Wings. They just need to score a few more goals and clean up a couple very costly mistakes.
And one thing I'll add there before we go to break here is Ottawa's going to be playing the night before in New York against the Rangers. That's a team on a back-to-back travel on the road both games. There are no excuses. I don't care if Dylan Larkin's still out or what. It doesn't matter. You have to find a way to walk away with something from that game. Channel your inner Denzel Washington. You're walking away with something. You have to. Okay, we're going to go to a quick break here, and then what you're going to hear is our Wind Wheel podcast night at the LCA live show, or most of it at least, featuring Ken Daniels and KIRK Maltby. And when we're back, we're going to wrap up with a very quick overtime. And then for next episode, obviously, there's going to be the one Ottawa game, and we're going to be back with you late Wednesday night. You'll probably hear it Thursday morning. And that's going to be a Good in the Room show featuring Max Bultman. So that's what you have to look forward to. Again, quick break, and then when we're back, the live show. When the season gets deeper and every game starts to feel that much bigger, you notice everything a lot more. The little mistakes, bad bounces, the pressure of a playoff push, and sometimes the stuff you see in the mirror too. For a lot of guys, thinning hair becomes one of those things that's hard to ignore once it's on your radar. And that's where Hims comes in. Hims provides access to prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays. Through licensed medical providers, and if you're prescribed, you can access ingredients that can help stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. You complete an online intake form, answer a series of questions, and a licensed medical provider reviews your information. If you're prescribed, treatment ships directly to you. Just personalized care that works on your schedule, whether you're watching a midweek game or sweating out the stretch run looking at the standings. So if hair loss has been on your mind just as much as securing a wildcard spot, this is a way to actually address the thing that you can control instead of just hoping it turns around on its own. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/wingedwheel. That's hims.com/wingedwheel for your free online visit. hims.com/wingedwheel. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. This time of year, once the season gets to the really important parts, everything speeds up. Nights fill up, routines get a little messier, and if you're trying to eat well, that's usually one of the first things to slide, and that's why Tempo's been such a good fit for us. Tempo sends fresh, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals right to your door, and they're ready in just 2 minutes. So instead of defaulting to takeout after a late game or piecing together some random snack plate at 10:30, you've got real food ready to go. A couple that we especially liked were the chicken and spicy pineapple salsa and the Korean barbecue pulled pork. The chicken had a nice kick without overpowering the flavor, and the pulled pork was just one of those solid, flavorful, filling kind of meals that actually feels worth eating after a long day. What I also like is that it doesn't get repetitive. We've got 20 new recipes every week, and whether you're looking for something protein-packed, something lighter, or just something better than, drive-through regret, there's enough variety to keep it useful. For a limited time, Tempo is offering our listeners 60% off your first box. Go to tempomeals.com/wingedwheel. That's tempomeals.com/wingedwheel for 60% off your first box. tempomeals.com/wingedwheel. Rules and restrictions may apply. Somehow we made it. Appreciate everyone who brought the sunshine. This is our 10th ever Winged Wheel podcast night at the LCA. Thank you all so much for coming. Packed house is wild to see. Thank you for all the paid actors for being here. For the 12 of you who actually bought tickets, we'll reimburse you afterwards. The hats turned out unbelievably good. Nice. So why don't we get it started? Welcome to the live edition of the Winged Wheel podcast. Here to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings hockey. This is the most this event has ever mattered in terms of the game we're watching after. The world of the NHL and lots more. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan. Whoa.
And with us, as Evan figures that out, we have lead announcer for the Detroit Red Wings, Ken Daniels. It took all of 10 seconds of being up here for Ken to start lecturing me to make sure that I was running this and not him asking all the questions.
That's right.
So we're not going to hear from Ken for the next 30 minutes, but
Perfect.
I am going to put you on the spot while we have everyone's attention before they get bored of us. This event is all in benefit of the Jamie Daniels Foundation. So for those of you wondering, we don't take anything from this event. Everything that is earned is donated to the Jamie Daniels Foundation. So thank you all for your contributions to that. And we got a roast coming up in the summer, Ken.
We do have a roast coming up August 29th, Motor City Casino, and it's almost too easy. It's a layup. We're roasting Chris Osgood. So the information will be on our website, jamiedanielsfoundation.org, by the middle of next month as the playoffs begin. Roasters confirmed so far. You may not know the name Neil Little, but a good buddy of Ozzy's, a former goalie, of course, who is hilarious. Darren Pang, Jim Ralph, who's a very funny man. He's actually done a couple of our roasts so far.
Yep.
Tickets will be available then. So middle of next month, hold the date, August 29th, Motor City Casino. It'll be a great night. I know the other one. Chris Draper.
Chris Draper.
Never heard.
Yeah. Well, you know why? I was going all goalies. Between Little, Pang, and Ralph, they're all former goalies, and then there's Chris Draper just snuck in there. So I said to Chris, if you roast for like 5-10 minutes, he goes, I could do an hour on Ozzy. So it'll be a fun night and for a great cause, as you all know, because you contribute. So hopefully grab tickets. It'll be a great night and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So a little surprise for all of you here. Ken just mentioned Chris Draper. One of Chris Draper's most prolific line mates, KIRK MALTBY, will be joining us at some point in today's live show. So first time we've had KIRK MALTBY on the podcast. So like I mentioned, I think this is like the third time we've done a Boston game for Winged Wheel Podcast Night, right? This Boston game and the impact of this Boston game, it's never mattered before like this. And here we are in March, and that win against Montreal was probably the most important win in the past however many years for the Red Wings. 2 nights later, that's a long gone memory because that's tonight's game, right?
What were you saying the playoff odd swing could be today, Ken?
Detroit 82% or 62% with a regulation win. Conversely, a Boston win from 79 to 57. So, yeah. And then I'm watching this afternoon before I left the house, and it goes to overtime because Erik Karlsson tied it up late, Pittsburgh and Winnipeg. Karlsson's been unbelievable. He's like Karlsson in Ottawa, except can play defense. So He scores 2 goals and then got the tying goal, and then Pittsburgh, of course, won in overtime. So speaking of overtime, so I had the numbers. So with that game, the 2 games this afternoon, 1,100 games have been played this season in the National Hockey League. 61 more have gone to overtime this season than last season. So 25.7% more games have gone to overtime this season than 20.1 last season. So roughly 6% more of the games. And that's why you've got it so tight now in the standings. So another one.
Almost 2 extra standings points per team at
Right.
this point, that which is insane. And we ran the numbers, deep analysis. The projected points finish for the Western Conference right now, that second wildcard spot when I did this was 87 points. And in the East, it's 100. So you could be 6.5 wins worst in the West right now.
We should have never left.
Shouldn't I? I don't know that I could stay up for that many 10:30 games, but it might have been worth it, Ken.
Yeah, there were late games. Our audience would dwindle. So there's 9 points as of today, 9 points between first in the East and the Islanders on the miss out. So there's 9 points differential. That would be the most since the NHL went to an 82 game schedule in 95-96. If it stays that way, would be, which isn't a lot, really, just 9 points separating. So that would be it. Last time it happened was before an 82 game schedule. Crazy how close it is in the East.
And part of this is I don't think this is some failure of the NHL, right? I think it's a weird year. I think it's a transition year for a lot of the teams. I think the West just sucks by and large this season. But does it encourage your thinking towards, and for any of you, towards going to either an NBA style system, just straight wins and loss, or go to a 3-point system like international hockey? The side answer to this is Gary Bettman and the NHL love this because this is incredibly great, appointment entertainment television. But objectively, is competition best if you get away from this?
For me, it is. I like a 3-2-1, 3 for a regulation win, and 2 for an overtime and 1 shootout. So I like it. 3 points to be distributed every game rather than some nights 2 and some nights 3. So I like that system better. I'm sure they've done studies on it, and you can hear differing points of view, but does it entice you to win in regulation when you see that, 6% more games are going overtime, Brad?
I'm a big proponent of the 3-2-1 system, but I think Ryan's point's ultimately the most correct one. The NHL loves what's going on right now. The race is going down the stretch, so many teams in it. This is Gary Bettman's vision of what this system would result in. So as stressed as we are, everybody's loving the stretch. Everybody's loving the race. Every game feels like a playoff game. So as much as I hate the, call it unfairness of the system, the drama it builds is worthwhile for the league.
But I wonder, and they've done the studies, if you redid the standings and you had 3-2-1, someone did it a few years ago, and at that point, when the discussion came up again, there really wasn't that much difference in a 3-2-1. I just think I despise the shootout. So I just think anything you can do to win a game in regulation. Heck, I grew up in the era of ties. I didn't mind tie games. I didn't ruin my night if the team I was rooting for tied. I wasn't devastated by it, so it didn't bother me. But the discrepancy in the West and the East, I think the West has the 3 juggernauts that are there and all in one division. And I know Gary's vision is the first round and it doesn't matter and likes the format and division play. I still would rather see it 1 through 8. I think it's a shame that either Minnesota, Dallas, or Colorado, one of them is going out in the first round.
Well, Gary had a quote recently about the drama and the excitement it creates in the first round, and he's not wrong about that, but to me, that's a fundamentally wrong mindset. The best rivalry in hockey, arguably in the last 50 years, was Detroit-Colorado, and they never met in the first round. So every time they met, it was the second round or the third round. The stakes were higher. To get to those rounds meant you had to be a better team, and you just created the rivalries naturally because the stakes were so high for those series. Yes, the chaos of a first round in the NHL is awesome, but you're going to get that 1 through 8 or with this system. So I agree. The 1 through 8 is the better system because it's going to create more drama when it matters the most, which is what I think your average hockey fan and even your casual hockey fan probably wants.
I like the 1 through 8, and ultimately teams will stay long. He said the first round is the best round. It's the greatest round. I get it. I think the first round is the greatest round and doesn't matter
Who it is,
it's still exciting, and it doesn't matter who it is. It's still wonderful, and maybe you do see upsets. I think the LA Kings, when they were 8, went and won the cup, didn't they? From the 8th seed.
Yeah,
they were
won
like
it.
16-2.
You know, I think it makes for upsets, and upsets are a great thing too, rather than seeing great teams go down early. So I'd rather see 1 through 8. And next year, don't forget, we're going to an 84-game season. So you play everyone in your division. And as Mickey pointed out, the analytic guru that he is, and I don't know if you heard, but on the last game, we talked about the 4th tiebreaker when you get through from regulation wins and the head-to-head. And the first game against Montreal, if the Red Wings were to be tied to them, is thrown out. And then the Red Wings won the last one, so they take the season series. Because there are 2 teams in each division now, you only meet 3 times, not 4. Montreal was one of those. We only met 3.
You're going to need to draw a map for
next year.
Oh my
It's okay,
God.
Evan, wake up.
Who's calculating this?
Mickey.
Who's paying oh, well,
He did. You know what I
he's
say to-
actually the 3rd host of Expected by Whom. They just haven't
Expected by-
announced it for this.
You know,
season yet.
you know what I say to Mickey? Mickey does his some of you, anyone here old enough to remember the Beverly Hillbillies?
Yep.
When Jethro was doing the math, and Uncle Jed said, "Are you doing your gazuntas?" Do you know what that is? 2 goes into 4, 4 goes into 8, 8 goes into 16. Mickey was doing his gazuntas, and he came up with that formula. He figured it out.
You know, he had
God
time
bless
while he
him.
was
He
recovering.
had time while he was. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
So-
we should ask about that, because I mean, you and Mickey and the entire crew have often and rightly been voted as the best local broadcast in the NHL. As you said,
Thank you. It's very nice. Thank you. We couldn't do it without fans watching us. And someone on Instagram reached out the other day and said in my nation, and this is how I'd say it, and put it written in his language. And he sent me the flag, and it took my daughter a while to find out that it was from Belarus, but they're watching over there too. So
Very cool.
I didn't know they weren't banned from watching over there, but they were watching over there. So I thought that was very nice. So we get letters from everybody all across. So Red Wing Nation is pretty darn good.
it's such a foregone conclusion from the fans' perspective. And I have to ask, when Mickey went away for a planned surgery, great to have him back now. What was that like? How did the dynamic change from your side of things? Because you had a rotating cast there of some really fun and impressive calls in Mickey's spot. But how did that change your world, calling the game from the gondola?
Honestly, it really didn't. I mean, Mickey, we've been together 29 years now, so good thing neither of us are smart enough. We don't have to think. We just sort of do it. And it's by nature. And even from the beginning, after a couple of months, we both came from the Hockey Night in Canada background, and it was just fairly easy. But I've done national games and working with different people, and working with Jody Shelley on Amazon Prime, and, you know, different guys there, Shane Knighty. You just get used to working with different people. And I've watched Frankie Corrado for so long, who's a rising star in Canada with TSN. I think Frankie is one of the best out there. So I did the game with Frankie in Winnipeg, and it was, you know, and he comes prepared with the boards and what he wants to do, and he's pointing to me for whistles, and I go ahead, man. So it's great for me. And Mickey and I don't even think about it, and we just do our thing. And Stu Grimson did 3 games, and Stu's great, wonderful guy, an attorney in Nashville. You wouldn't think that, huh?
It's crazy.
Those guys like George Peros, who heads up player safety, and some decisions there we all wonder about. But you know, would he go to Harvard or something? They're all bright guys who fought, and the nicest guys off the ice. And I love working with Stu and the dinners we've had. So it's nice that way, because you go on the road. They're obviously road games, because Mickey does all the home games. So you go on the road with these guys, and you just get to know them differently, and you're just wonderful guys. So for me, it's not so much the game; it's just the change of pace and meeting different people. Because normally on the road, because Mickey and his celiac and brings the Coleman stove, and we cook in his room. So he's firing up if you come to the hotel and you're not sure where Mickey's room is, just follow the garlic. As you get off the elevator. One night, though, I had my room right next to his. Not a good thing. But when you're eating in there, right, you don't notice it. Like in your own home, you know, there's certain smells in your own home. You don't think about it. And someone else comes in, the old commercial, fried fish last night, dear. You can just sense the difference. So Mickey and I usually eat in his room, because he doesn't go out if we're not going out for a ginger ale or something. So we'll just cook in his room and hot stove and tell stories. So it's the great thing about this game, friendships, whether it be Mick or with Frankie or Ozzy on the road or Stu. It's just great to be out, great to have friends, and great to be alive.
So we've been together so long because we're not smart enough to think too hard. We realize now how we made it 11 years, right?
Same thing.
we
don't
didn't
have to think.
realize it.
Can you
Didn't think
finish
too hard.
each other's sentences? I know you don't speak much, but can you finish?
Well, when we got up here, Brad said he was going for 5 words or less because you're here.
That's right. Well, I'm done now.
I'll be on the phone with Ken. He'll be like, "How come Evan didn't?" I'm like, "What do you mean? How come Evan? I can't control that guy. No one controls Evan. Evan doesn't. Actually, Evan, this is a milestone event for you
It is.
because this is Sullivan's first podcast.
First game. He's somewhere around here.
Yeah.
Where's the little guy?
Yeah. Where is
I
it?
don't know.
Hold him up like Simba. No, it's okay. You don't have to.
See, he doesn't know where he is. He left him outside alone.
He's at the bar somewhere.
All right.
It's Evan's kid. He'll be he'll be pretty.
Wait, and what about your news?
Oh yeah, we're this is technically our soon to be firstborn's first event. They're just hanging out with Mel pretty closely right now. Yeah, we're due in August for our first.
Right.
So these events they look like they run themselves to us, but it's because Mel is running everything in the background with an incredible team from the Red Wings and all the groups working with us. So massive shout out to them. And Mel's, running the show all while 17 weeks pregnant. So my advice is marry up and lock him in, and then your life is a lot better for it. So to the playoff race, back to it, the game against Montreal, that moment from Alex DeBrincat, like, what was the LCA like? Did the roof even did the roof blow off the place? Was that the closest we've had to a playoff atmosphere?
For late,
Yeah.
but the Raymond tying goal against Montreal a couple of years ago, that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That night was awesome. Never forget that. Hope to repeat it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was loud. It was great. I mean, fans, whenever we go somewhere else, or how much of the fan they're waiting for it, for sure. And this year, I think as much as the last two, you were hoping, and now you're really hoping because of where you were, because January 24th they were tied atop the Eastern Conference with 69 points. I didn't see Buffalo doing this. I didn't see it. What are they under Rick Bowness? 17-2-4 in Columbus? 17-2-4, I think they are under Rick Bowness, which let me lead this in another way. So I get a vote for Coach of the Year. The Jack Adams, the broadcasters vote for Coach of the Year, and I'm trying to determine, and I don't know if there's any set rule. Bruce Boudreau won Coach of the Year with Washington. 61 games he coached. Bruce had a knack for doing that, just coming in. And now Rick Bowness will coach at the end of the year 37 games. If Columbus does get in, how many here would vote for Rick Bowness as Coach of the Year, having coached just 37 games, but they were in last place when he took over? Show of hands. All right, I'll send you my ballot.
Yeah.
So, would you vote? Do you think for me, my vote, honestly, and I'd say it here, goes probably to John Cooper, only because what Tampa did all year. And he had a great team, but without McDonough, without Hedman, the injuries had, Point, Cirelli, I mean, unreal. He's turned J.J. Moser into a Norris candidate. So what do you think?
Well, even Darren Radish. It feels like Tampa always has those guys who come out of nowhere, and it's happened often enough. You have to assume Cooper's the main driving force behind that. He'd be on my ballot. I think Bowness would be on my ballot.
For 37 games?
Even with 37 games, because the turnaround's been so drastic. The one guy, though, Dan Muse in Pittsburgh.
Right.
That's the team nobody saw coming at any point this year. Malkin suspended for those 5 games. They're still winning. Crosby's out for a while. They're still winning. Couldn't get a save for a good chunk of the year. Still winning. He's resurrected Erik Karlsson, much to Ryan's chagrin. But I think those are my 3 right now.
I'm with you.
The way Buffalo's going right now, I'm sure Lindy Ruff's going to get some consideration.
He was there when they sucked.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's just the way it works. I think it'd be funnier if Kevin Adams got GM of the Year votes.
Right.
But yeah, I think Cooper, Bowness, Muse are my 3. I think if I had to say right now, Cooper is my 1, Muse is my 2, Bowness is my 3, but that's my ballot.
Okay.
Where's Todd McLellan for you guys, though? Because this Red Wings team is largely, like, I understand there's some differences, but it's not terribly different. And you've seen him extract, performance out of a guy like Johansson and Bernard Docker, for example, on defense. Like, those guys, it's a process to get that defense to work. Adding in Justin Falk has solidified things, but, like, he's not working with a ton more than he was last year. And even if you go back to last year, the record since he came in has been largely very good. So is he one of the top 3? How far down do you have to go? 5 before you get vote for him?
I feel like his is still TBD. if the Red Wings go from tied for first in the Eastern Conference to missing the playoffs, I don't think you can put him on the ballot fairly or unfairly, because he is a large reason why the Red Wings are even in the playoff conversation. But that's a pretty big collapse to not at least put some of it on the coach. I think if they get in and they get in fairly, where it's not like the whole Eastern Conference collapses, which obviously isn't going to happen the way this is going. But it's narrative driven. Like, it's a narrative driven award. And
Wish we had a voter here to swing the narrative.
yeah, but if a team gets in unexpectedly, which I think to a lot of people preseason, the Red Wings would be one of those teams. Yeah, he's probably in the top 5.
Marco Sturm.
Yep, that's a good call.
Ryan Warsofsky. If San Jose gets in and I don't have a vote, Macklin Celebrini would be my MVP. I think right now the MVP is Nikita Kucherov. I think Kucherov has something. Think about this. I don't have the exact number, but I'm close. 89 points in the last 46 games.
Yeah,
Think about that.
I think it's 90 something. I think it's
Is it
even more
90?
extreme than
97 points in 46 games.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he's that good. And with all the injuries that they've had.
Yeah.
So to me, I like Celebrini or Kucherov myself. I know McKinnon and Colorado and all that, but those two for me. If Todd McLellan doesn't win Coach of the Year, he's got Quote of the Year 3 times.
Yeah.
Right? It started game 1. Are we tired of this yet? Then it came to just play effing hockey. And then we've got just jerseys.
Got a bunch of jerseys.
They're just jerseys.
He changed hockey vocabulary.
He did.
Jersey's a pejorative now.
Well, yeah.
That's a bad word.
That's right. But you notice he didn't call them sweaters, because then it would have made like they were sweating. But it's
Because they
Canadian.
weren't.
I still like sweaters over jerseys myself, but I'm dual, but that's the Canadianism in me. Are you guys sweaters or jerseys?
Sweater when we're feeling fancy, jersey when we're,
Yes.
Well, I mean, Todd has talked about that, and I think part of that definitely is motivating, right? Like, when a coach says something that pointed to the media, it's not hard to read between the lines. He wants his team to hear it, and he wants his team to feel the heat to get him going. Do you, any of you, do you kind of get the sense that Todd, with how long he's been here, there's a little bit of just like blunt honesty of like, some of these guys, you know, they just don't have what it takes, and they're not doing anything for me out there, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it anymore. And this kind of lays the foundation for the summertime when decisions have to be made.
I think accumulation of his quotes paints that as a pretty obvious picture, where he's got the sense of, listen, I'm doing what I can with what I've got. But yeah, you get the big vibes from him on that.
I mean, he gets his next win will be 17th all time in wins. At this point, and I say this without being quoted like that, he doesn't care. He doesn't care what people think. He's been around.
It's got tenure.
He's got a long deal. He's done it all, except, the Cup. But he's had great runs with teams. He's seen all the players. He can speak his mind, and he's earned that right to speak his mind. So if they don't like it, he knows what he's talking about. And I think he commands that presence in the room where the guys respect him. I think Todd's done a great job. And if you notice, until the recent slide there, that loss to Florida was a killer with 91 seconds left and to lose a 3-2 game. Tampa, I think they fought well, and same thing in Dallas. But they had not gone 2 games without a point since November 28th, the only team in the league to do that. So he's kept this team from any massive slides. Yes, there haven't been the 8-9 game winning streaks. There were a couple last year, 7, and then you'd lose 7. That hasn't been there. So the team's been pretty consistent, and then the injuries fall off a bit, and now you lose those games, or maybe they would have been wins in a different spot than they're in now. So
let's talk about the injuries, because this was one of the healthiest teams in the league going into the Olympic break and the trade deadline. And then the sickest joke I've ever seen within hours of Steve Yzerman paying the deadline price for Justin Falk, a second pair right shot defenseman, and Dylan Larkin saying, he backed us and now we have to prove to him that it was worth it. And then a non-contact injury to their number 1 center has him out since then. And then a couple games later, I know he's back now, but Andrew Copp goes out. How did this team have to adjust from your perspective to grind out whatever points they could?
Got to win 2-1. Todd always said it was a race to 3. And he's right. I don't think he was including both teams' goals as a race to 3, but they got to win 2-1. So that's what and John Gibson has been, unbelievable. His last 22 of the 24 games, he's allowed 3 or fewer, and the Red Wings have won just 14 of those 22 when he's allowed 3 or fewer. So that's how good he's been. So you got to win the tight games. That's how you adjust. Hopefully Dylan is back Tuesday against Ottawa, which would be roughly 3 weeks, which we always thought was longer than Copp's 2 weeks to Dylan's injury. I don't know if he'll be back Tuesday, but if not, then you're looking at in Buffalo where they would really need him. So hopefully you don't want to rush it and then come back and have something else happen. But it was good to get Andrew Copp back. And I don't know if at the start of the year he necessarily would have said, boy, we need Andrew Copp playing like he can, a top guy. And, he's had a nice season. He's had a really good season. Yeah.
I was talking to someone about it who, they're from a national perspective. They didn't necessarily know. They said, how much of a hit was it when Copp went out? I was like, well, he was the number one center.
Yeah.
Which is an indictment on the Red Wings, but he's had a good season. And God, I shudder to think if he didn't, right? Because Marco Kasper, up until I think the year turned over, things started turning around for him, but he had an awful start to the year. And Kasper was meant to be the 2C, and he really, not until very recently, did he start to show the kind of Marco Kasper who's out there throwing hits, flying around, making an impact on a game, and he hasn't been the 2C this season.
No, and remember when Copp went down February with the pectoral surgery that he had a year ago. It was a good line in there, right? Still with DeBrincat and Kane, and then Kasper going in, and Kasper's played wing, and he's been all over the place. I just think, I don't know whether there is truly something to sophomore, but you remember Dylan Larkin's rookie year, and then the next year. Remember with the first season, he'd fly around the outside, and guys would chase him, and then teams adjust, and then you have to adjust, and I think that's the same thing. Marco Kasper will be fine, and they talked at the trade deadline, and then I hear media from other cities, and what are the Red Wings going to do, whether it be Trocheck or Robert Thomas, or you got your first round picks, whatever. And they say, well, there's Marco Kasper wasn't going anywhere. Marco Kasper wasn't, they'd be loath to trade Marco Kasper. You don't give up on something like that this early. So I think he's a mainstay. He'll find the way. You can see how he competes and hits.
He had 8 the other night, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, he'll be all right. It's just a confidence thing.
Talking about the injuries and the reinforcements, how big of an impact have guys like Dries and Shine and them have had on this?
Rise and Shine.
Dries and Shine, yeah. I mean, actually, the Shine's just had a baby.
He did.
Yeah.
He had his baby girl go along with son Cooper. He had Taylor, I guess he was back in Grand Rapids, so name was Callie, I believe. Dominic Shine, every goal he scores in Grand Rapids, the Griffins give $100 to the Jamie Daniels Foundation, and thank you. And also Dominic gives $100 out of his own pocket to the Jamie Daniels Foundation. So I think he had 21 in Grand Rapids, so it's like $4,200. And now I'm trying to tell the Griffins he scored 2 here. Does that count? I got to get to Dominic. So we're trying to get the money. Keep going, Dom. So yeah, congrats to the family.
I think it counts for double if he scores.
It should. They're NHL, tougher to score. That's right. Good point on that.
All right. So we actually are going to take a little interlude here for some fan questions. Paige says, which teams have surprised you the most post-deadline considering the moves they made at the trade deadline? I'm going to take the layup answer here and say the Columbus Blue Jackets, and just a continuation of what they've done since Rick Bowness has come in. Like, I don't think there weren't too many massive moves made.
They got Marchment before.
Yep.
They got Connor Garland.
Yeah, Garland, which I thought they got Connor Garland relatively cheap compared to what was out there, but you're taking on the contract.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's been the most impressive team outside of the juggernaut that's been the Buffalo Sabres, but that's been for 40 games now.
Yeah, and Buffalo, Buffalo's defense is really good, and Samuelson's been great this year, and I feel really good for Alex Lyon. I mean,
yeah,
he's Alex. When he was here last year, and I said, you're going to be like all the rest of the retired goaltenders. You're going to come and be on television as an analyst, because that's where they all go. And he said, I'm not quite ready yet. And I said, well, one day we're going to work together. And he said, I'm not so sure I want to work that hard. And I said, this isn't. He said, no. And my wife's a dentist in New York. So I don't know, but he's just playing it out. And I think he's just loving life and being there. So in Buffalo, in his home state, where his wife is, so easier for travel for him. He's been terrific. And Pekka Luukkonen's been good too.
To the question, I'll go with the negative route. I'd say the team that won the deadline, quote unquote, was Colorado, landing Kadri, and they were mediocre going into the deadline. They've been mediocre since about New Year's. Hasn't got much better since the deadline. They're not a bad team, but you figure with the 3 centers they have now after getting Kadri, that they would have just been a rocket ship to the moon after the deadline, and they're still just kind of trudging along.
It doesn't always work that way, and I think it was Brian Burke who said it or talked about the deadline, and well, besides that, in free agency, more mistakes are made, and they can be. And what did Pittsburgh do? and they got Soderblom, and that was the third we got, which allowed us to get Justin Falk. So as much as the Red Wings wanted a center, I don't know if they'd have Falk without one. And as it turns out, they needed the center when Larkin and Copp went down. It's just how the world works. But they got Falk, and they had to make that move for Soderblom, who did score for them the other night. Not sure still yet what he is or will be. But Pittsburgh didn't really do much. And that's where I say Dubas didn't do much, but he didn't move Karlsson, and he got that juggernaut Anthony Mantha. Wow. Anthony Mantha's in a contract year?
Contract year?
Yeah, must be.
What a season he's having.
Yeah.
So, they didn't do much, and Dubas did a really nice job hanging on that team. But others, the deadline, I don't know.
I think when you think of the teams like Colorado and stuff, I think of the teams who have kind of been there, done that, and they almost position themselves in a way where they heat up at the right time. I don't really think that they're doing this intentionally, though, mind you, because the teams who get there and aren't shocked in the first round are the ones who start to play games like 75-82 like their playoff game. I think of John Cooper and how he prepares Tampa. Do you guys think the Buffalo Sabres are the real deal? Like, do you think this holds in the playoffs, or do you think there's going to be a little bit of like a, what are you going to do when you get punched in the face scenario?
I mean, when you look at their roster, how can you not at least believe a little bit that it's real? Like, they're incredibly deep up front. Their defense now is just, they can go 7 guys quality D deep. So even with an injury, they're still all right. I love the guys. The only real question I have with the Sabres, 2 questions I have going into the playoffs. One, not a lot of guys on this team have been there, done that before. So how are they going to handle that pressure? And it might almost be a detriment to them that they're running away from everybody right now. So the playoff race isn't going to be all that intense for them. And Pekka Luukkonen and Lyon, is that goaltending going to stand up in the playoffs? I'm not saying it can't, but they're unproven in those scenarios. So it's a risk, but I got to tell you, there's not many teams I'm picking to come out of the East ahead of Buffalo right now.
Tampa? Not even?
Coin flip for me right now.
I think I still prefer the team who's kind of...
Yeah, the been there, done that.
Longer
is definitely...
pedigree. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, I think of guys like Dahlin, and I think it's really great. I mean, not from an Atlantic rival perspective, but it's great. Dahlin's always been a great defenseman. It's really like cool to see him really grow into that role, unless you're playing against him, in which case you see red and you try to kill the guy.
Why does everyone hate him so much? I just want to kill him.
Apparently he's like world-class agitator with making it look like it wasn't him.
Considering what he's been through this year and his fiance and the heart issue and back overseas and going there and come back, he's didn't see that coming as good as he is. And,
Let's talk a little bit more about we kind of like jump past it, but the Red Wings trade deadline acquisition. They did go out and get that deal done, a couple deals done to bring in guys. They brought Perron back, which was huge for the room. I know you've talked about that a lot on the broadcast, Ken, in terms of what he was for that room and how they felt it when he left. And then obviously bringing in Justin Falk. Do you already see the impact those guys have had? And do you think, without injuries to Larkin and Copp, would that have had enough to make you confident in this team and what they need to go and make some noise in the playoffs?
Depends how loud you want the noise to be. Yeah. To get in for sure.
Yeah.
Without the injuries, and hopefully they still will. Yeah. But Perron is a real presence in the room. You can hear him. The guys love him. And you can just see his board work and along the boards and how tough it is to get the puck from him and the way he can get the puck, accept passes. And Falk's really steady. It's, he and Sherratt as a second pair, it does take some of the heat off Seider and Edvinsson. And Simon's maybe struggled a bit sometimes of late and coming off the injury where he missed the time and out of the Olympics. Has he been as good? No. But it does give Trent Yanni some options to play that second pair against the elite on the other side. And it's not so much to open up Seider and Edvinsson more offensively, because there's been some pinches there that haven't worked well to even try that. So, but it does give them a good top 4 option. And yet I think really unheralded is the third pair. I think Johansson and Bernard Docker have been better than expected, right? You think?
Well, I feel like since the new year turned, they were like 2 of the few guys who started to look a lot better, just a lot steadier. Like I think Johansson, most of the start of the year was a little surprising because I thought ways in which he made the game look easy, he was almost a step behind and he wasn't himself. And I don't know if that was the chaos or pairings, but those guys have really steadied for sure.
Yeah, and they match up better with. Sandin-Pellikka is the odd man out right now and just needs to get stronger, and he will. He'll be fine down the road. And you've got Anton Johansson coming over from Sweden, hopefully for next year, is going to make some noise at camp. So to see what these guys have done this year, I hope they get in because it's going to be a great experience for all those guys. Again, whether they make noise or not in the first round, and heaven forbid it's Carolina in the first round, that's not a great matchup. But Tampa, you never know. I mean, stranger things have happened, so you can make it's experience for all these guys, whether it be Brandsegg-Nygard getting into a game and Finney and Casper and all, just to play in the playoffs and see it. And you'd have to feel great for Dylan Larkin, not since his first year, to get back in. He needs that because as captain and this team and the fan base, and you all want it, he's wearing it, and it's hard for him not to. I mean, he's strong, but it's hard for him not to have that.
You talked about guys like Brandsegg-Nygard and Finney. We have a question here from Alex A. He says, what player or line has been your biggest surprise so far this season in terms of their performance? So
I want to hear from Evan.
I mean, I'll say any of the jerseys really, like, in a not a good way. You'd think with the amount of messages that have been sent to them in terms of the rookies making the team and bringing guys in, and JVR having a pleasant season, like, you think at some point you'd be able to extract something a little bit more, but they just haven't. And I think that's one of my big surprises, that one of the 15 messages that have been sent their way has not landed.
And those are just the public ones. God knows what's being said privately.
Yeah.
You're saying Todd needs another quote. Just one more quote.
One more quote.
One more quote will do it.
I'll take the probably easiest layup here, and especially after the first couple months, John Gibson.
There you go.
We knew he was good and likely to be an upgrade on what we have, but for the last 3-4 months, he's been arguably the best goalie in the NHL. I don't think any of I was the John Gibson optimist in the offseason. I would have never predicted this.
Hold on.
One of them. There was a lot.
Someone was dumb enough to predict John Gibson 920 save percentage.
Fair enough.
And I'm getting close, man.
You're getting there. But yeah, he's almost in Vezina territory had it not been for the first 2 months.
How many of John Gibson's initial games in like October and November do you have to remove before his save percentage gets to 920? Someone do that math for me at some point, because I want to take my victory lap on that one so far.
Yeah. And save percentage now, it's not what it was when it's gone from 9-10 years ago and on down. And they audit shots on goal. That's where you'll hear us say, after a period unofficially, shots are 14-10 because they can wound up 12-8 because they go back and they look at everything. The shot's going wide now where it's not through the blue and a goalie could have stopped it. It's not a shot on goal, and that's because of betting and how many shots a player has. So they go back at the end and they have actually a model with a screen and radar where they can see if it's going on. So if a shot's going wide, it's not. So where you used to, if the guy in a certain building was just clicking shots, like they used to do in Tampa, they're like 40 shots in there. No, they didn't. Like you look at the end of the period, you go, where the hell did they get that many shots from? They didn't. So now the save percentages obviously aren't as great as they were if you faced the more shots and the puck wasn't going in. Now the shots are down, so the save percentages have come down in the league. That's where I think a league average, is it 898?
Yeah, it's like a high
something like that, where it used to be 910, 907, 903. Now it's 898. So when you see it, boy, that's not what it was. Well, in part because the shots aren't counting like they used to either. But that's a long-winded way of saying I'm with you on John Gibson. Get Gibson or Finney, either one for me. And Gibson, it took him a couple of months to adjust and coming from a new city, and I get that. And family moving and new teammates, it took time. And the 5-1 loss to Montreal opening night didn't help any.
Going back to the playoffs, I mean, we opened by talking about the disparity between the West and the East this year. If the Red Wings make it to, let's say, 97, 98 points, and, in this hypothetical, just a hypothetical, let's say they miss. Is that, like, it's easy, and obviously, of course, we'll all be upset if they miss the playoffs, but do you still consider that like a failure of a season, considering how strong of an improvement that would have been this year? We talked about it last episode. You mentioned, Evan, like, they had, if they make it to 98 points, like, how can you be mad when everyone else around them, like the East is just crushing the West, and in the West, that cutoff was, 10, 11, 12 points lower.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like, you're looking for a moral victory if you don't make it, but the Wings don't make it, Buffalo makes it, Montreal makes it. Those are huge experience jumps that those teams are getting, and you're going to be playing those teams in the playoffs or battling for playoff spots with those teams for the next 5-10 years. That's a problem for the Wings. They'll need to somehow find a way to build again and try and get better than those teams. It's going to be tough if they miss.
Yeah, it's a season where you want to get in because Florida's out. And as good as Tampa can be, if you think it's going to get easier a year from now, it's not, because of just what you were saying. I mean, yeah, New Jersey's had a down year, but with Schaefer and the Islanders, I don't think many saw that coming. That kid's unbelievable. So where the Islanders are going and still have Sorokin, and you don't know about Florida, whether they retain Bobrovsky or not. I wish they'd probably think they'd have Spencer Knight. They don't. But Chicago's going to get much better over on the other side. But where our division is with Buffalo and Ottawa and Montreal, no one saw Boston coming. They did a nice job retooling on the fly there. And Tampa's still going to be okay, although they're getting older. But yeah, it's not going to get easier. This is the year you want to get in. And to think that Calgary missed last year in the West with 90 record tying. They were tied for last. They missed with 96 points last year. That's the most points to miss the playoffs. So the team, if in fact, let's hope it's not Detroit and they get in, but somebody's going to miss with 98. That'll be the most points ever that somebody's going to miss the playoffs with that many games played, an 82-game schedule. So that would be something in its own right, which would make it even harder to fathom or take.
I think about the teams around Detroit. Like Montreal is on the up and up. Marty St. Louis did a phenomenal job with that team. You know, Buffalo, we don't even have to articulate anymore what Buffalo's doing. Tampa Bay is still, up there. Florida, they're not going to stay on the ground for too long. Barkov will be healthy, hopefully in their minds. Like Ottawa, if they had a goalie, if they had anyone random in the crowd for half their games this year, I think Ottawa would be in Buffalo's spot.
And they thought they had a goalie.
They thought they had a goalie. He's an every other year goalie. He'll be back next year.
And wait till you see the prospects Washington's got coming too. I mean, there's Cole Hudson, Lane's brother, who looks, and they got the other Protus. The other guy is big. They got a lot of good prospects coming to Washington, and they're likely going to miss. And Flyers, it's going to be, it's getting tougher. But it's not, the Red Wings got great prospects coming too, so they can be right there with them. But it's going to be this tight, I think, going forward. If next year isn't as tight, maybe not as tight as this year, it's going to be just as close.
Well, I think the context of everything that's happening this year almost feels unfathomable if you went back to September. Oh, by the way, Florida's not going to make the playoffs. Toronto's not going to make the playoffs. New Jersey's not going to make the playoffs. And Detroit's going to get 98 points.
Right.
You do a backflip. You take that all day, every day, and then you follow that by saying, you're going to finish ninth possibly. Mm-hmm. Nobody would believe you.
Yeah. I picked Montreal at the start of the year. I picked Montreal to win the Atlantic. It's not going to happen, but I thought they could hang there with Tampa Bay because, again, we thought Red Wings would be hanging with Buffalo and Ottawa. And, well, they still are to some extent, but Buffalo had the great run. All you got to do is fire your GM. Get right up there. I think Kevin Adams was pulling the strings on that team. And I think when he was gone, listen, he built a good team. You can't take that away from him. The players were there. But I think that Lindy Ruff is coaching a little bit differently without Kevin Adams there, and he's playing the players he wants to play. And I think the players see that, and I think they're more relaxed playing that. And they got some good leadership with Tuck and Thompson and some other guys.
We're talking about all these other strong teams, not just in the East, but like specifically the Atlantic. And so this season being what it is has been great for Detroit. And they made I would say like a minor and a medium move that they needed to, but the big move is still evading them. Is that a must in your mind in the offseason to try to keep pace? Because next year is looking scary. I don't see the East as getting much weaker.
No, I think there will be moves, but a lot will depend. Danielson, health, stay healthy. Kosa up here as a backup. Boy, were they rich in goal. Postava's done a nice job in Grand Rapids, and you got Trey Augustine coming, and he's still got unfinished business. Couldn't do Big Ten, but then in the tournament. But you see Fowler in Montreal. He's good, but he's still a rookie, and you can see, do they trust him? What do they do in the playoffs if they get there? Is it Dobish? Do Fowler see games? So next year, I think Kosa will be a big story for Detroit, if in fact, and working with John Gibson, that will be a storyline. And I think this is going to be a very interesting offseason, not so much necessarily involving Detroit, but just around the league and that domino that's named EP40 in Vancouver.
Never heard of him. Who is he? Describe him as a player.
Elias Pettersson in Vancouver. Teams did circle on him, and there's a lot of money, and Vancouver doesn't want to eat any of the $11 million. It's going to be tough to do. But There will be some players out there. Free agency won't be great, but enough that I think there's going to be some movement because teams, not so much a team like Utah, but even teams like Anaheim in the West are coming, and San Jose, and teams that are right there that are young, and Chicago, and moving out Foligno, and who are they going to bring in, and more veteran presence. I think there's going to be some moves around the league. It's going to be very interesting summertime.
You can't control whether or not the move's there, but I think the effort has to be made. Because again, the injuries that happen post-deadline.
All right, shut up. Kirk Maltby's here.
Okay, yeah.
Please welcome 4-time Stanley Cup champion Kirk Maltby.
Want to sit in my lap?
I can't.
All right.
I'm your ventriloquist dummy.
You said it, not me.
I know. It's all Kirk now. I'm out.
You got prep to do? Or
No, I'm not working tonight.
Oh,
No. It's an ABC game tonight. Sean McDonough and Ray Ferraro.
Do you have prep to do? What does tonight look like from your position?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I just getting up there to watch from the press box. It's I kind of have the same view as Ken when him and whoever he's working with up in the booth have the same view from there during the game. So sit up there. It's a lot easier from up there. I don't think I haven't had a bad game up there yet.
You've been perfect.
Yeah. So
Great.
but it's just watch warm up, see the lines. Get ready to watch the game. There's not a whole lot of prep to watch a game. So
We have to start by opening. Brad and I were discussing what's hometown for you. Is it Guelph or is it Hespeler?
I was born in Guelph.
Guelph.
But grew up in Hespeler, basically from 4 or 5 years old. So yeah, all my family, my friends are all still back there.
See, growing up, I didn't know there was a town or city named Hespeler. I just thought it was a hockey stick.
Yeah, and actually the stick factory was in Hespeler. But they made Cooper, well, I don't know if some people might not remember Cooper, but it's Cooper Bauer, and they made the bats and sticks there for all the pros. And, they would have a junk pile, and as kids, we would go get it.
Would you?
Yeah, stuff like for road hockey and baseball in the park and stuff like that. And Paul Woodsy's from Hespeler.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I don't know. It's a small little town, but we've generated a few people at the pro level.
Perfect. All right. So we have to start with maybe what everyone's interested in. 4-time Stanley Cup champion. You know what it takes to be a winning hockey team. So you watched this season's Detroit Red Wings and thinking back to what made a winning team back in your playing days. Do you see kind of any parallels in how this team has come along, or has the game changed so much?
Well, it has changed a lot, with the rules and the way they call it, the training, just the way there was no salary cap, there was no lottery for the picks. By the time I got here, we already had Steve, we had Nick, we had Sergey. I'm not saying it was easy because obviously there was a lot of disappointment before, and even when I got here, it's hard to win. You need to be good, but you got to be a little bit lucky, stay healthy. I do see a lot of similarities in the sense we got some really good players that are coming. A guy like Lucas Raymond has really established himself. Larks is, I think a lot of people didn't know how much he would play going to the Olympics and even the Four Nations last year, and he was a prominent name in both tournaments and a big part of that Team USA. So his experience, just the young guys, like these guys are so big. Like I look at Moritz, Seider, and Simon, and they're big, they're strong, and you don't just remind me of guys like Darian Hatcher. Now the game's not played like that, Chris Pronger, but these guys move too. Like these guys can fly up and down the ice. So it's we're in a good spot. We're going the right way. It's going to come down to the wire. It seems like nobody loses anymore in the Eastern Conference. And
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, and I was watching the Pittsburgh game today, and they fought back to a 4-4 tie and then won in a shootout. So, but yeah, it makes fun, but it's nervousness too. But at the same time, we've had some injuries, but some guys have stepped up. I like the way we've played. We've played hard. We got Andrew Copp back last game. Hopefully Dylan will be here back sooner or later in the next couple games. And then, just kind of finish strong. We can't control what everybody else does. We can only control ourselves, and that's what we have to worry about. So, it's like playoff hockey right now. We, Montreal the other night, Boston tonight. I think it's Ottawa on Tuesday. So all teams that we're all fighting for those playoff spots. So it's a fun time of year for sure, but it can be a little bit nervous as well.
So I've spent a lot of time over the last few years going back and watching stuff about the 90s Red Wings and reading a lot of quotes and watching a lot of stuff from Scotty Bowman, and things he's alluded to over and over and over again was buy-in and culture, buy-in and culture. And you look at those 90s Red Wings, you've got all the Russians, the Swedes, the Canadiens, the grinders, the superstars, but they all bought into what Scotty was preaching. And I see a lot of the same quotes coming from Todd, very similar quotes these days. How much do you think, even though the game on the ice has changed, seeing so much of that preached behind the scenes still, how important is that?
No, it's very important. I mean, Scotty, I don't want to say fall in line. It wasn't like a military thing, but it was kind of like if you didn't buy into what he was trying to. I mean, he obviously had success before he even got to Detroit. So how can you not want to do what he's asking you to do? And if he felt you weren't, then you just weren't going to be there. And he wasn't a screamer or yeller at you. He wasn't going to do all this. It was just, you come into the rink, it was like having a pink slip in your stall and you're see you later kind of thing. So, I mean, it really started when Scotty kind of got here. They had some obviously good players, good team. I don't know what the conversation was or if they even had one, but like Stevie went from a very dynamic offensive high-end guy, 100+ points, to ultimately one of the best two-way forwards in the history of the game. So when your captain is playing and leading like that, and his conditioning was second to none, and he's in the gym before practice, after game, like just, when you have leadership like that and guys that, are prominent guys in your lineup, it made it a lot easier to kind of fall in line and just let's go. And obviously it worked. We had a lot of success. But like you said, everyone bought in because we had a lot of good players that came in. Like, I mean, you probably heard some of the rumors or rumblings of Brett Hull and Dominic Hasek that they kind of maybe butted heads with coaches or teammates and this, that. We didn't have any issues. As far as I know, we didn't have any issues with them. And part of that was the respect I think they had for Scotty and Stevie in particular as the captain and the coach. And they wanted to win. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, all we all wanted was just wanted to win. And that was a great team in 2002. It was a little scary start in Series 1 against Vancouver, losing both games at the Joe. But yeah, it's important. And I think with guys like what we have here, guys like Dylan and Mo Seider and these young guys, just going from a forward and a defenseman standpoint, these guys are hopefully going to be here still for a long, long time to come, and they're setting the tone, the way they work, the way they play. I mean, trust me, I knowing Dylan, it's killing him not being able to play right now. So, but he's hoping that they go out there and do well, obviously, and do well and win games. So we'll see how it goes.
Do you remember the bus ride in Vancouver when we were down 0-2 and landed there?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah. We lost games 1 and 2 here. I think game 1 was in overtime. Yeah. Game 2, we lost by 2 or 3 goals. And I think, did we fly out right away after the game?
We flew out after the game.
Yeah. So it's not a short flight out to British Columbia, but we get out there and we were welcomed, with a caravan of Vancouver fans with brooms in their hands and chanting and just completely harassing us, and which they're entitled to, and we for a lot of our team, we've had success. We won the back-to-back cups in 97, 98, so I wouldn't say we were nervous per se, but we were like, I was like, oh, this is a little like, we're back in Canada, and these fans are nuts, and winning 2 games, they had a really young team, a young Todd Bertuzzi, they had the city
Bertuzzi, Morrison,
like they had a really good young team, up and coming team. So anyways, we get going, we're driving, they're following us the whole way. These fans are honking, they're out the windows and just abusing us verbally. And then finally we get probably within a few minutes of the hotel and they're gone. We're like, oh, okay, good. Well, no, they just race to get parking spots so they can meet us at the hotel. And so we're coming off the bus, getting our bags, and it's like the red carpet, but they're not wanting, autographs and pictures. They're just,
you guys suck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was just being nice.
But early on, when they were harassing us, and Mickey and I, we sat near the front of the bus, second seat back on the left behind Kenny, and and the bus is complete. You guys were completely quiet, at least what we could hear. And Kenny turned to me, and you could hear the fans. It's all you could hear, and the brooms are out the window. And Kenny turned to Mickey and me, and he said, "This is perfect."
Yeah.
No,
I mean, it set the tone, definitely. Not that we didn't know we were in it already after losing 2 games, but they came out. It was great, a good start, kind of, and it was, I think, tied, and then Nick Lidstrom from center ice, and that kind of really swing the momentum. And
did you know at that moment when he scored from center ice? Did you feel like no, we got this?
I wouldn't say that, but I've been on the other end, whether on the ice or on the bench when it happened against us, a bad goal or, a fluke.
Ozzy Lynn a bad goal?
You know what, man? Like, who was it? Dallas.
In Dallas, Ozzy Langenberg.
Yeah, Langenberger from center ice. And I think that puck might even been going wide, possibly. But anyways, but Ozzy goes to play it, it bounces, hits the stick and goes in. And then he comes in, what was it, game 6, shuts them out, and we win. We move on to the Stanley Cup final. So that's, as a goalie, that's, as a teammate, that's the type of goalie you want that can just let it go. He got up, came in, he wasn't cursing, swearing, nothing. And like I said, he came out and played a hell of a game in game 6. Yeah.
97, your shorthanded goal. Is that your biggest goal in your career?
Yeah, probably. It's like, you get your first goal is always, a special occasion and this and that. But, yeah, playing in the Stanley Cup Finals and scoring the first goal, and I guess maybe kind of fitting shorthanded with me and Drapes because we were kind of obviously penalty killing partners for a long, long time and had some success. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, I know all my family and friends were watching back home, and when I talked to them, they were all fired up and excited, and obviously winning, makes it that much more special. So, yeah, that was probably my biggest goal.
Who was the not the chirpiest, because you could do that. Who was the funniest teammate you played with? And I don't know whether it be Homer or Brett, that on your own team, in the room, your own guys, who would be the funniest guy you played with? Just make you laugh and go, I can't believe he said that.
Yeah. Well, Hully, you didn't know if he was being funny or being serious. Like kind of ripping a guy jokingly, but I'm not sure if he was joking sometimes. But you have to have thick skin sometimes with certain teammates. But Homer was probably by far the funniest guy, and again by accident because of that language barrier. And I mean, for those of you that maybe saw the video, I forget what it was where we had the rookie party, and I think it was in Vancouver or somewhere at the hotel, and we kind of made Homer speak, and he wasn't a rookie because he was just the stuff that would come out of his mouth. And so yeah, Homer has a great sense of humor. Then add in the language barrier and things like that, and he by far the funniest.
Because Brett tells the story while he was in St. Louis, and Tony Twist came up, and Brett sees him play, and Tony comes back to the bench loud enough that Tony could hear, and he said, "Who the hell gave this guy a jersey?" And then the next shift, Tony fights, and Brett goes, "Oh, I see why."
Yeah,
but that was Brett. Brett was great. Who was the most skilled guy you ever played with?
Well, I kind of got asked specifically before who was Sergei or Pav. And those are probably the two most skilled guys that have been through here during my playing days. It was hard to pick because Sergei could just do it at such a high level of speed. And he could easily play in today's game. He'd probably put more points up without the clutching and grabbing and all that stuff. And then Pavel was not quite the skater Sergei was, but the things he could do with the puck and make guys miss, leading, I think he led the league multiple times in takeaways and pickpocketing guys and make D-men and goalies look silly, and just a humble guy too. It's not like he's doing it to be an arrogant guy or anything like that. But and sometimes I said this before too, like not that you ever want to be losing or have Pavel turn a puck over or do something negative on the ice, but sometimes when he did though, like it was like, okay, game on, because Pav's going to do everything in his power to not just make up for it, but even more on top of that. So Pavel was an ultimate competitor.
Yeah. So we know how good Pav was and Sergei, but who's the guy, because you played in Detroit for so long and had so many teammates come through, who's the guy idiots like us don't talk about enough? Who's the guy that didn't get the attention he deserved for how maybe call it sneaky good he was?
KIRK Maltby. Say McCarty.
Don't worry, I wouldn't.
And look who we have behind the curtain.
You know what? I don't even know why this guy just popped in my head as you said that, and it wasn't a superstar, but when you look back now and see he had a very nice long career and a few different teams. But Mike Knubel went to the University of Michigan, played I think his first game was
Fighting It at the Joe.
Fighting It, yeah.
Yep.
Joe. That was the rookie first game. It's like, holy crap. Like, I can only imagine. But he's an absolute awesome guy, awesome person. And, just, he's just a good guy to be around. But then, he wasn't flashy. Like I say, he was one of those guys that teams need. Like, he could score a goal. He could really fire the puck. He was strong. And he just, I don't know what his numbers were at the end of the day, but I know he ended up just having a really nice long career where at the beginning you were like, well, where'd this guy come from? And he was in and out with us and this and that. And then the next thing you know, he's 10, 15 years later, he's still playing.
Mike Knuble.
Yeah,
no worries. Talk to us a little bit about those days, like the fight night at the Joe, like that era of rivalry with Colorado, like that was pure hatred. Like that was blood on the ice, like pure hatred. What was it like when you got out there? Like, was everyone just seeing red, or
No, it was fun. I mean, it was honestly, like it was, obviously the worst thing was Chris getting hit, and that was dirty, and then ultimately the only other guy that got hurt out of that whole thing was when Matt got clawed back, and he deserved it. So other than that, no one got hurt out of the whole anything else. Oh, maybe Foot when Kazi put his head into the glass plant.
Yeah.
Foot deserves that anyway.
Kazi thought he was coming this way.
Yeah. But the funny thing was, like, just after the first time, and then obviously we moving forward, and then the next season and stuff like that, like friends and family are all like, everyone's circling that game. Hey, can we get tickets? You got tickets? This, that. They wanted to come and watch it, and but honestly, from a personal standpoint, it again, no one really got hurt other than the one guy that deserved it. Drapes didn't deserve it, but it happened, and it was just exciting because they were a good team. I mean, you look at them; they had all there, like Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg. I'm gonna miss guys. Yeah, Chris. Like they had a hell of a team, and Patrick Waugh and that, and just they were fun games, and we didn't expect. It's not like we expected, the brawls to start, be like that every game we played them or anything like that. And then obviously we had one more after that, but it was great. I think it was great for hockey. I think it was great for both organizations, both cities. And, I guess at the time it probably was hatred, but when I think back on it now, it was a lot of respect. And like I've seen Joe Sakic before, super, super nice guy, very humble and just easy to talk to. I mean, I probably could care less if I ever saw like Forsberg or Foot or talk to them or Waugh. Like
and Claude's probably in the building. He's Mo's agent.
Yeah, I've never ran into him or seen him or anything like that. But again, if I see him, I mean, well, I'm not too old and too out of shape now. But I mean, it was fun. It was great hockey, and that just that rivalry with those guys was great hockey. Then you mixed in some years there. There were some awesome teams in Dallas and St. Louis too, and it was just it was a war to get through to try to just get to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah. All right, last one here. The importance of making the playoffs for the Red Wings this season and having the LCA see a playoff hockey game. Like how important of a domino is it from your experience to just get in once and just build from there, get those guys that experience?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish I could just say, we're going to be in and this is how it's going to be. But until we're actually in, and obviously a couple of years ago, losing by a point, not getting in was extremely disappointing. But the way the guys are playing and some of the experience just from playing games in the NHL, I think is going to go a long way once we get in, hopefully this year. It's, we don't want to keep prolonging things. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and beat a dead horse. It's been, I'm sure, talked about with you guys and all over radio. Like when Stevie got here, there was very little to deal with. The first 2 to 3 years were really just trying to figure things out. And then, but like I think they've done. Chris Draper, who's in charge of the amateur scouting and the draft, has done a great job, along with Steve. Picking some draft picks. I mean, it's almost a unicorn when you pick a 7th round guy and he's in your lineup. The very next year. So it's, it'd be great. I mean, the arena, like last game, there were some moments where the game was, some things were going on. The crowd was just jumping and loud. And I'm out here in the Chevy Plaza. I'm assuming you get weather like this, people will be out there just cheering and watching the game. So, for if not for anything else, it's where the Red Wings deserve and should be. That's where we belong, is in the playoffs. And there's no guarantee once you get in, but the old cliche, get in and anything could happen. And it is true. You look at the Eastern Conference, especially in our division, and you could win a couple games, you're in first, or you're jumping up a couple spots. You lose a couple and you're out of the playoffs almost. And then you got the Pacific. I think we'd be in first place in the Western Conference. So it's crazy the way, and that's what the 3-point game I think does to the standings. But yeah, no, I think it would be great for just the organization, the fan base, the city, just to get back in and feel playoff hockey again. And then obviously whenever that ended, hopefully this year once we're in, and then building off the off season with the draft and free agency, and then into the fall again. And not trying to get to next year already, but it's playoffs is what you play to win, and that's what this team is doing. We're playing to win, and these guys are playing hard. They're coming out and they know they're not going to win every game, but they're got to give themselves the best chance to do that. And with the young guys, they're just going out and playing hard every night, and hopefully continue off of the last 2 games here at home and take out Boston tonight.
Folks, KIRK Maltby, Ken Daniels, thank you so much for joining us on today's show. Thank you.
We're going to overtime.
Welcome back. Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheel podcast. If you want to support the show, make live shows like that happen, and get access to benefits like our bonus overtime episodes, the Discord, the ticket giveaways, the giveaways for exclusive merch that we can't sell, like these hats that I'm wearing right now, and lots more. So again, patreon.com/wingedwheel podcast. This is probably going to be a very abbreviated overtime. Apologies just for the sake of show runtime. So let's take some questions here. The Jack Scientist says, if ASP gets sent down, which wouldn't be a bad move, where does that leave him next season? Third pair is full if we re-sign JBD, but our 7th D are gone or out of contract. Also seeing discourse around Guimond. Could he make some noise?
I think the most likely scenario right now is the Red Wings are running it back with the same 7. If not, maybe Bernard Docker moves on and ASP kind of graduates there full time, and they find another, I use the term as a term of endearment, another jobber to be the 7th guy. And it is what it is. I think we're going to see very little done to the defense this offseason.
I think but that's the design, when bringing in Justin Falk, and every opportunity is there for ASP if he earns it, right? Like if you're playing Justin Falk in third pair minutes, it's phenomenal. You're not mad about that at all. Certainly you're like, okay, well, it makes a first round pick that you paid sting a little bit more, but it's the likelihood of ASP jumping from his performance this season to like a bona fide game in and game out, like 84 game second pair right D guy next year. It's not a high probability. It's possible for sure, especially if you give him some runway over the course of the season, but he'll have every opportunity. I expect that he'll be on the team unless things go terribly. Datsuki and Deke says, do you guys think there's enough depth scoring in our prospect system / young guys that in 2 to 3 years our scoring troubles might not be a big issue? Good depth offsetting, only having a couple high-end scorers, thinking of Yenborg, ND, MBN, ASP, and Bear, or should the team prioritize trying to trade for another pure offensive, high-scoring forward via trade? Easier said than done, I know. Loved Wing Wheel podcast night and had a great time hanging out in the gondola chatting with Ryan and his buddies. Great to chat with you and watch what was a good game until it wasn't. And it's a tough question, I think, to answer concretely.
The parameters are what make it tricky, because is there a lot of scoring there? Yeah. I don't think all of them are going to translate to the NHL, but a bunch of them will. And they're going to bring some goals. In 2 to 3 years? Nope. So if you're looking at the long term, the answer is yes. If you're looking at 2 to 3 years, nope.
All right, last question here from Gretzky Had It, Lost It, says, if this season ends without the Red Wings in the playoffs, I do believe major changes outside of what's previously been discussed are possible. Doesn't matter if the point totals rise, if the collapses remain equitable and constant. Larkin being injured down the stretch is now cliche. I love the guy and I don't want to see him go, but at this point I'm more confident than ever that we will see him raise the cup one day, just not as a Red Wing. Oof. That's a tough one to swallow. Watching Verlander, Stafford, and Larkin win championships after leaving Detroit might be more than many fans can handle. However, he's much more likely to win as a middle six center on a great team than a 1C on a team that's mid. Also clear that his time in international play combined with his tenure with the Red Wings reflects this. If Yzerman's going to move him, this offseason might be the best time to do so, assuming, again, the Red Wings don't make the playoffs. Larkin's value has been elevated by his Olympic performance, and he is now on the back nine of his career with a contract that has decent value and term remaining. It'll break my heart if it happens, but should the Red Wings be playing literal back nines instead of hockey in 3 weeks, I will be an advocate for attempting to trade Dylan Larkin. Here's the thing. In this hypothetical, and I'm operating purely within this hypothetical, the return would have to be so colossal. Like, you know what we were talking about with Robert Thomas? Like, that's what the return would have to be to make it worth it for Detroit, because they already don't have enough Dylan Larkins by way of like top 6 centers. And so if you get rid of yours, who's on a great contract, yes, you have the concerns about, where is he at health in March and whatnot, but this team is so much worse without him that you are resigning yourself to, unless the trade is some weird player trade and you replace him immediately. And I don't know, the Robert Thomas trade didn't materialize. No one could get that one going. So the kind of return that the Red Wings would need to make that worth it right now, I just don't see it there. It's certainly possible. I don't see it there, and it's not Yzerman's style, and it wouldn't be most GM style, because they have too many other good players. You have Seider, and I know not right now, but Raymond. You have Edvinsson, who's hopefully going to continue to get better. You have a bunch of young players who are already starting to contribute and going to, contribute more. This team is too good to tank in the kind of way that you would need to for that deal to work most times. That's my thinking. I understand the sense around this, but I just don't see that as a likely path.
The other problem is you create another hole at center, right? Like, Red Wings are dying for centermen. Like, I think it just creates another problem. Obviously, the return would need to be the return. It would have to be absolutely astronomical, but it just creates another problem, I think. So I know this is hypothetical. I just find it would be very difficult to execute a trade of that magnitude.
I hope the next dozen games make it so that we are just forgetting all of the pain to get in, and whether they're stumbling in or striding in, that the Red Wings just make this a non-conversation. So we'll see. All right, another quick break, and when we're back, we're going to wrap up this episode. Back after this. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to do a quick wrap up here. Again, patreon.com/wingedwheel if you want to support the show. And if you want to help us out, but Patreon's not for you, wherever you're getting this podcast, if you can subscribe, be it YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, it does help us out a lot. And to all of our sponsors, thank you to everyone who came out to Winged Wheel Podcast Night at the LCA, came and said hi. Appreciate all of your congratulations as well. It's such an incredible community. Like, I wish we had more time on this episode to say thank you. So just so great to see all of you. And to our name level supporters on Patreon who make all of this happen, thank you, thank you, thank you. Arjun Shanker, Aikfer, Martin Norberg, THL Champ, Samuel Soderholm, Klaus Sorensen, Glenn Brabham, Rain Dano, Sea Lion, Darb EQ, Matthew M. Rice, Detroit Style, Deep Dish, Cider, Bingo, Bango, Hassam Al-Qassem, Asher Killian, Kaylin Wood, Alex Toger, That's What I Appreciate About You, Derek Enstam, Matt McKay, Andy Hardcore, Sam Bankson, Susan High Five, Aaron Hudson, Admiral Matt S. at the Cheesebag Navy, Evan Falksinger, Stephen Ortley, Jonathan Miller, Give Blood, Fight Probert, DJ Denton, Carl, Brutanen Nanalewski, Nate, Why Don't You Call Anymore, from Rick, Jay Gollum, Settlers of Catan, Stan, John Engels, Alex Spinella, CB55, Connor Scovey, Adam Zawiza, Adam Rose, Denny's, Gamer Girl, Steve R., Hockeytown Matt, Mr. Kuzi, Chaotic Monkey, Craig Kibble, Eiserplan Stan, Clip Clop Nene, Podgy713, Unapologetic Gibson Truther, Griffin Not from Grand Rapids, Winter Night, Marty, Kazi the OG13, Jeff Pridemore, Eric Hill, Butts Carlton, Best James Bond, Beer League Legend, Alec, Mark Hernandez, Slim Smitty Cards, Grand Rapids Girly, Anna Sleeman, William, Mike Asher, August, Brian Munn, Improved But Flawed, Chris 99 Jones, Trevor Centerfit, Adams Red Wings Takes, Kurt Chin, Adam Ernie Slander, Kachuk Brothers Walk to Church, Larkin #1 Fan, Colin White, Donnie Brook, Mail Carrier, Aaron, General Andy Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, Quaz, Dylan Larkin Trade Sacrifice, Evans Milk Bag, Richard Scout for Harambe, Bananas Larger, Matt Keeler, Linda Hull, Connor Layton, and As Good As It Gets, Josh Yelton, Brad Simmons, Darren Fick, Bex, The Hodag, The Second Coming of Daddy Pastor Jake, Open Thy Mouth Wide, and I Will Fill It. Jeez, read. 200-foot high compete, Maximilian, Commander Ben Baron of the Cheeseback Space Force, Sandin-Pellikka's Pet Pelican, Griffey Boy, JM Rhapsody, Frank Stanley, Rosie Posey, That Other Guy, Pucking Puck Puck, Tom Iserplan Respector, Carl Thames, Nerno, The Hat 123, Stephen A. Ron, Corey Prida, All Motor No Hands, Gene Sullivan, Stinky Britches, James Pridemore, Upernadian, Drop the Puck, Eric Nance, Ann Stanislavski, Jim, Bellingham Massiballs, Peter Swanson, Wings fan in St. Louis, Scott, glad to see you, made it home safe, buddy, Lucas Raymond, Thick David, Trent Thorough, Grepsky, Evan Beckner, C.E. Hayes, Finney to the Rafters, Jacob Marsh, Falkness, Fight Night at the Joe, Axel, Sandy Pelican, The Octopi's Ninth Leg, Finney the Pooh, AG the OG, I'm Evan, you're Evan, we're all Evan, Richard Wasmith, Cassidy Hart, Lion, L. Johnson, Ramson, Koshaba, Ryan Caputa, and your second favorite patron. Thank you all so very much. Hopefully better news on Wednesday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to visit wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you'll find links to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find ways to support the show, like Patreon, official podcast merchandise, and more. And don't forget to follow us on X at Winged Wheel Pod, at Ryan Hanna, WWP, at Brad Crisco, and at Hockeytown Evan, as well as Winged Wheel Podcast on Instagram.